I watched the whole game. And I thought a couple things as Bumgarner came in and as the game, kind of ventured on into the late innings. And I completely agree with you. I definitely, picked Kansas City, and I said several times on your show, I think Kansas City is a better team. And I still do. I still think Kansas City is a better team of the two teams. I think San Francisco clearly had the best pitcher, and they did a excellent job of using the best player in this series to control the series. And I think after, credit to Bruce Bochy. I'm sure if you, filled him full of truth serum and asked him, last night before the game, what would be your perfect script, he would have said they would get a lead, early and give the ball to Bumgarner in the middle innings, and ideally, he would take you at least to the setup guys. And I think when he came in, like you said, I think they had a real shot to get him, and your biggest Ned Yost naysayers will blame him for bunting and giving one of those outs away. And I am not a bunting guy, for the record, but we've talked about Ned and his Nedisms all the way, and they lived by the bunt, and you can say in some ways they died by the bunt because they gave up an out to move a guy over. And the more we get into new age statistics and working percentages, the easier it is to see that bunting is not necessarily a high percentage play or a good decision. But they played that way all September and October, and they played it that way all the way to the end, and it may have hurt them in that inning, because I agree with you. I think they had a shot to get him before he settled in. And I think I was not surprised to see Bumgarner go as long as he did and end up finishing the game. And I actually think, the longer he stayed in, it was better that he finished, because it's definitely a small sample size. But I've told people this, in my lifetime, there have been 2 one-run ninth-inning Game 7s to be saved before last night, and they're both blown saves. In 97, we know that one all too well, but 2001, Mariano Rivera couldn't get it done against the Diamondbacks. And I really thought, even into like the 7th inning, I thought if they go to Romo and they go to Casilla, this game's wide open for the Royals still for one of those comebacks. And I think the Royals got very tight when they saw Bumgarner. I think when they didn't get to him in the first inning that he was in, I think they got very nervous. And without saying that the Royals beat themselves, I think they did Madison Bumgarner a lot of favors. And, the Tom Verducci and Harold Reynolds, Bumgarner threw a lot of pitches up and out of the zone. And to me, he was doing that because the Royals were giving it to him. And, numerous times they were talking about him, still having the strength to throw 92, 93. Well, that's not overpowering. And 92, 93 in the lower half of the zone is a ball that a lot of hitters can get on top of and drive. And even if you just look at that Alex Gordon base hit, I think that pitch was a mistake. Go back and watch that replay, because that ball was low in the zone, and Alex Gordon got on top of it and drove the ball well. And he got right back. The next hitter, was Perez, and everything was up, up, up. And everything that was up that the Royals were swinging at, that's just, to me, I would be hard-pressed to believe that you could find a game for the rest of the year where they were as undisciplined and over-aggressive as they were in the last 5 innings last night. And that's nerves. For all the reasons that I thought the Royals would succeed and win this series, kind of in their bullpen being the difference, it was Madison Bumgarner that was the difference at the end, because he definitely, on top of being, historically good, he was definitely in their head too.
Yeah. Lorenzo Cain after the game said, we probably would have won if they didn't have him, but they have him. So there you go. And
Unions probably would have won if they played better defense this year too.
Well, there you
can
go.
hit and butt your way to a ring forever.
Man, look at my man's World Series stats for his lifetime so far. And he's 25 years old, by the way, which is, he's got a long way to go. But 3 rings, 4-0. He's got the save. He's got a .25 ERA, 36 World Series innings, 1 run, 14 hits, 31 Ks, 5 walks. Just amazing.
It's not very bad.
Right there. No, not bad at all.
So yeah, I mean, I think, definitely a dominant performance and what he did all through the playoffs. I mean, I think it's the understatement to say that he's the MVP of October, but not the if and but, things the way Lorenzo Cain was. But I mean, you look at his performance in this month, and I'm not sure that the Giants win the play-in game against the Pirates if they don't have Madison Bumgarner, and just, what a difference a hot pitcher can do for you in a month, in a short series. It changes everything. I mean, he is historically dominant. Don't take anything away from that, but I mean, he's a huge game changer. I mean, he took a team, we talk about, the Indians and kind of being in that mold of mediocrity. I'm not sure that the Giants are a whole lot better, but they have a gigantic difference maker that bridges that gap and gets them to that next level when he takes the mound. That's for sure.
Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com talking to us here on the Sports Fix. We're talking World Series. It wraps up. The season is now officially over, and we get ready to head into next year. Literally, clocks have already begun. Teams have already started. Well, they've already started, but the clocks have begun on contracts that need to be offered, free agent decisions, things like that. Hey, another thing that happens with the end of the season is that officially for the first time in, about a year and a half, Alex, baseball player again. Just curious, man, what do you think? We don't got to go too much into it, but what do you think the baseball future is for ARod in New York? I'm just curious your thoughts on it.
I can't see Alex Rodriguez playing 100 more games lifetime in his career. I feel like the Yankees in some ways are kind of stuck with him to a certain extent because he's under contract. But if anybody can eat a contract, it's the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I think there will be a day. First of all, I don't think that he's ever going to come back and play even remotely close to the quality of player that he was before any of this. I mean, he's closing in on 40. He clearly has drug issues that we've seen. I think it's fair to expect him to start breaking down. And as you look at the Yankees, I mean, going all the way back to before Derek Jeter, I mean, this organization is in as bad a state right now currently as it's been since before Derek Jeter. And, I mean, I think they have tried to kind of patch things up and throw more money at their problems the last couple years. And I just wouldn't be surprised now that Jeter is gone and the core 4 are all completely gone, that you might not see them choose to take one step backwards with the hopes of, taking 2 steps forward rather quickly. Their rebuilding projects are a lot quicker than, probably the Indians and teams on smaller budgets, but I would not be surprised to see them try to cut some payroll, develop some young players, and maybe not necessarily punt on 2015, but definitely try to get younger and a little better. And, their pitching is a gigantic question mark, too. They've had a ton of injuries. So for all those reasons, I mean, I can see the Yankees letting him come back, but when the injuries begin and he starts to break down and, if they build some kind of young nucleus, some attempt to retool and rebuild, I mean, I'm not sure that that's a guy you want hanging out with your developing new era of players. And, if you're ever going to eat $100 million, I guess that's a guy worth eating $100 million for, to get him away from, your organization. And if and when the Yankees ever release him, I mean, I think he's he's a poison pill in baseball. I don't think anybody will touch him. And I mean, the day he's let go from the Yankees, I would think is the day that he's done in baseball.
Yeah, it's funny. He's got 3 years, $61 million left on the contract. Like you said, anybody can eat that. It's the Yankees. But it's funny listening to some of the breakdowns and hearing Joe Girardi and Brian Cashman talk about what they may do with him next year, to, coming into spring training and that. It's like you got Nick Swisher, except he's got a bigger name. They're like, well, I guess he could try to play third, but we're not really sure about that. Maybe he could do, first, maybe as a backup, and they could do some DH. And I'm like, man, he's the over-expensive guy that they don't want to play and they don't have anywhere to put him. But as long as we're paying him, maybe we'll try to find somewhere to utilize him. But yeah, man, it's just funny seeing that. I was curious if he even makes it out of spring training with them. I would not be surprised unless the Yankees feel that there's some story hidden in here that we don't know about. I don't even think there's not a recovery story there. There's not even a feel-good story on the other side of ARod other than just go away. I think people have completely forgotten, maybe not forgotten what got him into the headlines, but people have kind of forgotten about him over the last 2 years. He hasn't played, even the year before his suspension, he only played in a handful. He played for 6 weeks or something like that, 8 weeks. It wasn't a whole lot of games. It was like 40 games, 50 games, something like that. So for most of the last 2+ years, he's been a non-factor anyway. I just technically he's officially back in their deal, and it's going to be interesting to see when the circus of spring training comes around and that's in the spotlight. I wouldn't be surprised that if maybe, like you said, they don't just try to find a way to cut their losses and say, hey, man, we owe you $61 million. How much will you take to walk away, and just get that thing over with? Because I just can't see anything good coming out of it, even for the Yankees. There's no public relations value. There's no, like you said, you don't want him working with your young guys, so there's no developmental value. So, I mean, what do you do with the guy? I think you just say, hey.
I think the Yankees' greatest or wildest dreams would be that he would come back, sit down, shut up, play baseball, which already I think is not possible in this scenario. But say he could, show up, play remotely well, and if they could deal him to someone for nothing and eat half of his contract, I think that would be the Yankees' wildest dreams come true. If a veteran team that had a good foundation and a good, strong manager, a team that would never go down this road but would fit for them would be the Giants. A good veteran team that has a strong manager that would not let him, really mess with the chemistry. If he could be somewhat, functional as a part-time player, I think that would be the Yankees', greatest dream come true if they could only eat half of his salary and run him out of town. But I can't possibly see that happening. And I think, the other 29 teams know that there's probably a good chance that he's let go at some point. And if you're one of those teams that for some delusional reason would want him, why would you give up anything or be willing to even just pay half of his salary if the Yankees would potentially eat that entire contract and you could have him for the league minimum?
You know what's going to be funny come spring training is just knowing what I know about the type of personality and the way ARod goes about his business, especially being with the way he's definitely a unique individual, arrogance-wise, and all of that. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if nothing is headed off at the pass and he really does report to spring training, to watch him cluelessly, because he's the guy that'll do that. He can just walk through, act like nothing's wrong, everything's not, like he's just oblivious to the drama that he caught. There's certain people that are really good at that, and he's one of those people that I could definitely see. It's just a big circus of distraction around him, and he's just going around what, is everybody here to see me? Yeah, dude, you know what everybody's here to see. But it's going to be an interesting thing when spring training comes around from there. That's a long way, though, spring training. Other teams moving, making things happen. Another big market team, Chicago, the Cubs version. I'm a bit surprised because I thought for sure that I know they have a manager. I get it. I know that they've got Don Mattingly in L.A., but I thought for sure that Joe Maddon's departure from Tampa was the first step of the two-part process to reunite the Rays brain trust over there with the Dodgers. But word is now that he may be the next guy heading the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting story to see unfold.